With all the healing and mobility in Apex, it can be hard to close out a fight fast. And we all know what happens when fights go too long. Yep, you guessed right, it's a third party. How's it going, guys? My name is Valued, and today I'm here to help you guys end your fights much faster. But before we get into it, just a reminder that we launched a brand new Discord to find teammates, chat with us, take part in giveaways, and so much more. Check it out below. But anyway, guys, let's get right into the good stuff. When taking a fight in Apex, you should always be looking to end it as quickly as possible. Now, this might seem obvious, but trust me, we all need to take this more to heart. There's nothing in the game that is more noisy and draws more attention than a long firefight, and staying in one too long is begging to get third party. So today, we're going to dive right into some tips on how to close these fights out fast, and then we'll talk about setting up your fights for success before you even shoot a bullet. Alright guys, so as you're entering that building for the fight or getting close to that line of sight where you can beam someone, you should always be looking for opportunities to get use of your nades or legend abilities. Timing a Bloodhound or Seer scan right as you're about to peek can make hitting your shots way easier. Not to mention, leading with big abilities like Horizon or Fuse's ult can often be the best way to use them, as hopefully you have some element of surprise right before you start laying down shots. This same mindset goes for using grenades, as they can give you a huge amount of entry damage to start off a fight. And if you haven't tried it, sticking someone with an arc star is way easier than nailing someone who's on the run. Whenever you're entering a fight, whether you have the jump on the enemy or not, you should be leading with any abilities or ordinances that make sense. Does it deal damage or CC? Well, then it can give your squad a massive pressure advantage in the fight. And on the other side, does it give information on enemy locations? Well, then it's going to help keep your squad alive as they can track enemy movement, and it'll make hitting your shots even easier. Nades and abilities don't do you any good if you don't use them, so don't risk losing a fight over not wanting to use your nades or even your ultimate. You should always be keeping track of the tools at your disposal and using them anytime they can be a benefit to you. This will speed up your fights because you're going all out in every one, looking to erase the enemy squad as soon as possible. One thing you should keep in mind is that as soon as you use those nades or abilities, your enemy is going to know that they are being pushed. While you want to use them frequently, you need to make sure before you go using Bloodhound scan or nading an enemy that you're in a position to take the fight to them. All too often, I see players throwing their abilities out, alerting enemies to our location without first being in a position to fight. If you have knowledge of enemy locations and they don't know where you are, this is one of the biggest advantages that you can have in Apex Legends. The same reason you die to third parties is the reason that you have an advantage here, the element of surprise. We've all gotten cracked by a sky nade or an ability that's immediately followed up by an enemy push, and these situations can be some of the most stressful and hard to handle moments in the game, and they'll often cause every single player to panic or at the very least take the fight with a health disadvantage. So guys, this could be the biggest tool for you to use in closing out your fights fast. If you scan someone out of position or hit that big nade damage, don't give the enemy time to heal up and get their bearings, push them. And guys, if you're struggling with these advantages or you just need some in-depth analysis on your game to give you the ultimate advantage, then make sure to head over to ProGuides.com. Right now, we're running a 3-day trial to test out all the features that we have to offer. Check it out in the description below to level up your game. Alright guys, now we have got to touch on the most important aspect of your loadout, your guns. Choosing the right weapon for the job is something that can be tough to balance throughout a match. And even if you're an advanced player, you might just be setting yourself up for failure in the weapons that you choose. There are points in the game where it feels right to have that charge rifle laying down long-range fire and charging your Evo. But the bottom line is, when you're getting into medium and close ranges, you have to get those downs fast. Understanding the raw damage output of certain weapons over others is the key to building a loadout and playing your loadout strengths. There's nothing wrong with that charge rifle, but if you try to take a building with it, or you have an R301 secondary and come face to face with an enemy who has a Volt, then my friend, I wish you good luck. While every gun in the game is strong, shotties, SMGs, and even the flatline have higher damage in close ranges than other weapons in the game. You can win close range fights with any AR or even a sniper if you hit your shots, but you need to be building a loadout that allows you to eliminate enemies as fast as possible and is well suited for the ranges that you're fighting at. If you're about to charge a building without a shotty or an SMG, you're gonna have to play around the close range weapons that your enemies definitely have. This leads to you taking more time in a gunfight, and you just do less damage in close ranges when you do have the chance to hit your shots. Both of these contribute to you knocking enemies slower and really can drag out a fight. Having an EVA 8 or a Prowler to enter that building rather than an R301 or a Scout will have you dealing way more damage. And guys, I know it's gonna sound obvious, but the more damage you deal, the faster that the fight can end. Alright guys, now we got a little bit ahead of ourselves because we haven't even talked about all the things that you can do to speed up your fights before they even begin. The bottom line is, one of the best ways to prevent third parties is to have good scouting and awareness of enemy team locations. And the best way to end fights fast is to recognize this info for what it is and make decisive decisions around it. If you see an enemy squad and they haven't seen you, it can be a great idea to get those advantages that we've discussed so far. However, if you aren't certain that there's no other squads around, pushing into an enemy team for a fight can be a death wish if there's another squad nearby. And while you can't have perfect knowledge of nearby squad locations, it's usually worth doing some preliminary scouting of an area before you rush into that spot on the map. Taking a few moments to listen for gunfire of nearby squads, get some high ground and look for enemy movement or bullet tracers, and watch for squads rotating in from outside the ring are all great ways to scout an area before you take a fight. Having as much info as possible will allow you to enter the fight without hesitation and have confidence that you at least have some sort of time window to take out this squad. Once you get good at thinking this way, this pre-fight scouting process should almost be automatic, as you should be looking for all this information at every single stage in the game. If you're good at gathering this info quickly and retaining the info you gather as you move throughout the match, you'll have a much better time taking fights with confidence. Alright guys, so an example of this info that you could gather throughout the game would be if you're rotating to Harvester from the west side of World's Edge and heard fighting in Fragments. Fragments is a very popular spot to drop, and rotating out of Fragments to Harvester is also a very common rotation. If you hear people in Fragments, you can bet that there will be people rotating out of Fragments in the near future. This means you need to be sure you're fully committed to fighting together with your team, trying to end fights quickly while keeping an eye and ear to the north for other incoming squads. This type of information should constantly be influencing your decision-making and will better help you be prepared for those third parties when they inevitably come. We just touched on one of the biggest factors to finishing your fights quickly and being prepared for anything that the game could throw at you, and that is team coordination. While we all get those solo queue teammates that just don't communicate and die on their own, this is far from everyone. And you'll do yourself a lot of favors by actively calming and pinging your intentions to your squad. The bottom line is that even if you manage to pull off a 1v3, it's going to take you a lot longer to finish that squad than if you had your squad to back you up. Remember, we're playing the long game here. We not only want to kill enemy squads when we get into fights with them, but we have to do it fast and smart enough so that we don't just die to the next team that shows up. Having your squad team shooting enemies and instantly pushing them together when big damage gets dealt is going to suit you way better than kiting a team all the way around a building as a solo until you manage to finish them off. Not to mention, everything you or one of your teammates does is amplified by the other teammate's actions. Let me give you guys some examples. Let's say you hit a Valkyrie tactical and stun some enemies. Well, your teammate nearby can get some free shots in. And let's say you landed a nade and cracked someone as you're pushing. Well, now your teammates might have some different angles on the enemy that lets them finish them off. And then another scenario, you pushed in and knocked two, but then got downed. Well, if your squad's working together, then your other two teammates should easily be able to finish off the fight. So guys, just remember, every single thing you do in the game has more value when you do it with your team nearby to also capitalize on your advantages. Side note, you guys like that pun? Alright guys, and this goes for your teammates as well. Even if they get downed, they're absorbing pressure that would otherwise be put on you. And if they manage to get some damage or hit a Bloodhound scan, then they're enhancing your ability to fight, and most importantly, they're speeding up the fight. Alright guys, get your Octane pads and Wraith portals ready because I want to see you guys pushing and wiping some squads off the map. Keep in mind guys, the things we discussed today, and you'll be taking out squads fast and surviving deeper into the game. Some of what we discussed today might sound like it might slow your game down, but once these habits are instilled into your gameplay, you'll be able to finish fights and move around the map faster than you ever have before. Anyway guys, my name has been Valued. If you guys have a tip that we didn't include here, please let us know down in the description below, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.